Good evening, everybody. My name is Eugene, the SEO King, and welcome to another session of Grow Digital with SEO King. And today we have a very special guest with us that will be guiding us through on what are the first steps to take towards PDPA compliance. And as you know, PDPA stands for Personal Data Protection Act. Is basically a series of methodology that you need to use to ensure that your company data and the data that you collect, especially, for example, customers' data, will be kept safe and that you will always be above the law. So if you're watching us on, we are actually streaming on Data Protection Pals Facebook, as well as Data Protection Pals YouTube channel, I am SEO King YouTube channel, and SEO Daily Facebook page. So if you're watching us from this and you really want to learn and really want to get value from this, we would strongly encourage you to share on your social media so that more people will be informed of what are the first steps to take for data protection, right? Without further ado, let me introduce Mark Barnabas Lee, the Data Protection Pal. Hi, Mark.
Hi, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, depending on which part of the world you're calling in from. Very glad to have you, very glad to be here with you on this session. Hopefully, I can inspire some of you to get started in your data protection practice.
Right. So we understand that you've got some gold nuggets that you want gonna share with us, right, on data protection,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
because basically a lot of people have a lot of misconception of data protection, and a lot of people do not really appoint a data protection officer or do not really see that PDPA is important to company. So we have audiences that are even ranging from freelancers all the way to upstart entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, and especially also established business people and corporate people that are watching today, right? Many friends have indicated that they are really supporting me and supporting you as well. So we look forward to your training, Mark. So let's get started.
I'll do my best to share as much as I can, and please post your questions along the way so that I can address them along the way or at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we'll just go straight into the first 5 steps to comply with PDPA. So I'm going to share my screen.
Hello, Hannah Owens. Thanks for watching.
All right. So so here you have my screen. I'm just going to share the entire screen as much as possible. Right. So you see my screen now. All right, first 5 steps again, get an overview of PDPA and of course take your first steps to become compliant. And of course, today we're not just talking about compliance, but we're talking about accountability. Going compliance seems like a bad word because it's like, oh, I gotta do it. It's such a pain. So really, let's all go beyond compliance. Let's all begin to learn how to be accountable for our personal data, because when we are accountable, I'm sure our customers will appreciate and therefore build trust among our stakeholders and customers as well. So just a disclaimer before we begin, this content that I'm giving you, it's considered unsolicited advice. Whatever you do after it is really on your own responsibility. I'm just here to give you advice and my interpretation of the Data Protection Act of Singapore. And of course, some of these may also be applicable in your country outside Singapore, or it may not be applicable depending on your legislative requirements. So on to the program itself, and a quick introduction myself. I won't take too long for this. I used to be a school teacher. I taught chemistry and physics. And after moving on from the Ministry of Education, I served the schools, ran a travel agency, ran a food F&B business as well as a dating agency. So all my life, I've actually been dealing with risk. Yes, very risky business. One of the most risky being managing the resort in Malaysia. We have been running the resort in Malaysia. Some of you who are avid hikers will know this place called Gunung Ledang Resort. It is one of the highest mountain in southern Malaysia, and we have all sorts of people coming in. And trust me, we have dealt with many pleasant and unpleasant events. So all my life, I'm dealing with risk, and today I'm going to talk about one of the major risks of businesses today, and that is data protection and cybersecurity. I mean, over the past few months, even during the circuit breaker, I am sure you have read, seen, or maybe unfortunately even experienced some form of cyber attack or attempt to scam you. In fact, believe it or not, all of us are victims of scammers every day. Don't believe me? Look at your email spam box. How many spam mails have you got in there? And how many of these emails contain malicious documents, malicious links? And all it takes is one little click, and you could be inviting a crook into your computer, into your company, into your network, and that could cause you serious problems. Especially so if you are holding on to personal data in your computer. So personal data is not just unique to Singapore. If you're calling in from Singapore, it is in many places all over the world, and in Asia. Countries have implemented data protection since 2005, Japan being the first, followed by Malaysia, South Korea, Philippines, and surprise, surprise, China also has a data protection law. The name is quite cute. It's called PIS, Personal Information Security Specification. But this year, they have started to introduce a new one, and we're looking forward to find out more about it. So other countries like Asia, Philippines, India, Thailand, and Indonesia are also going to implement their data protection law. So worry not, we're not the only one. And by having a good practice in Singapore, you are definitely going to prep yourself for going beyond Singapore and Asia and the rest of the world. So PDPA in Singapore is something that is not new anymore. By now, everyone would know about it. Just a quick overview. It's introduced in 2012, enforced in 2014, and further enforced in 2019. And for some of you who have been reading the newspapers, it was further enforced on 2nd of November with new amendments. And before I talk about all these things I'm going to talk about today, I'm just going to cover very quickly the amendments that was proposed in Parliament last month in October and passed just this last month, 2nd of November rather. So by now, we already know that the maximum fine of breach of PDPA is a maximum fine of 1 million Singapore dollars, and it has already been enforced on SingHealth and IHIS for the breach of medical data 2 years ago. So what's new in the amendment? These are some of the 4 key points that have been passed recently in the amendments to the PDPA, and these are the 4 points. The first being you and I, good news, you and I being individuals have greater rights over our personal data, and which means that we can do this thing called data portability. We can transfer data from one organization to another. So what does it mean for business owners? It could just mean that if businesses have data of customers, we've got to be ready to pass it to customers and bring it over to the next entity. Second, there's a mandatory notification in the event of a data breach, something that's not surprising. They just kind of put it into words and law right now. The third one is something that could be disturbing for some, whereby there is going to be penalties to individuals for mishandling of personal data. So which means that the government can fine individuals in companies for, yes, poor usage and disclosure of personal data. And finally, as mentioned earlier, raise penalties for breaches, the maximum fine being 1 million, or 10% of the the local revenue of the company, whichever is higher. So these are some of the amendments. I will not cover too much of it. If you want to find more, you could write to me, or you could just read up online. There are many articles on these amendments as well, and some of us are still reading the statutes in greater detail because it's so new. So on to the program today. And what is the purpose of the PDPA? This is one slide that I would like you to remember and take the picture and keep it in your mind, because when you know and understand the purpose of PDPA, you realize that it's not just for companies, but it's really to protect people like you and I who are individuals, because we have rights too. So the purpose of the PDPA is to govern the collection, use, and disclosure of personal data by organizations in a manner that recognizes both the right of individuals to protect their personal data and the need of organizations to collect, use, and disclose personal data for purpose that a reasonable person would consider appropriate in the circumstances. Let me catch my breath. Yes, this is a long statement. This is the exact text from the statutes, not edited. So, but what I've done is I've highlighted and underlined the keywords here. As long as you, as a business owner, or as a social enterprise, or a charity, or even an individual agent for insurance, real estate, as long as you collect, use, or disclose personal data, you have to do it with a reasonable purpose. And likewise, if you and I, being individuals, can also then question any organization that collects, use, and disclose our personal data, if they do not have a right, reasonable purpose for it, then you can make a feedback or complaint. Okay, but be nice, okay? Just ask the DPO for clarification, all right? So this is important because it is going to be very relevant to what we're going to talk about today. So this is also the note that has just been published just this month. Why learn about PDPA and how the PDPA benefits us as individuals and business. Generally, PDPA really seeks to protect you and I as individuals, and also help businesses grow by building trust among their stakeholders. So today I'm going to share 5 simple steps to start being compliant or accountable to your personal data. And I got a question here from Adrian. Let me address this question because it relates to the purpose of PDPA. The question is, what is deemed reasonable? Oh, this is a very common question we always get. The word reasonable is subjective indeed. So what's reasonable if the reasonability test is to ask a third person, what does that third person think is reasonable? So for a business, how do we check? We ask, what does the industry do? What's the common practice in industry? And what does a competitor do? If the competitor does something that's really, really not, known, then it's too much. Give you a very specific example, and that I always share: lucky draw coupons. If I take part in lucky draw and I want to collect your data, do I really need to collect your office address and find out how much money you're earning? I don't need to. That's really unreasonable. For a lucky draw, you really only need my phone number, isn't it? Logically, yes. So that is an example of being reasonable. So let's go on to our 5 steps to be PDPA compliant or accountable. So the first step, remember A, B, C, D, E, all right? So A, to appoint a data protection officer. 2, be aware of personal data held by your organization. C, create data protection policies and practices. D, defend your personal data in your organization. And E, educate employees to implement your data protection practices or policies. So A, B, C, D, E. So simple, right? Yeah, right. All right, let me elaborate them a little bit more. For those of you who are business owners or even key holding key positions in your organizations, you would have received this letter from from ACCRA, where ACCRA would send you an email asking you to appoint a data protection officer. This was sent to you on the 2nd of July 2020. So please check your emails. I must admit that when I got this email, I thought it was spam. Why? Look carefully at the sendee address. Do not reply at mail.postman.gov.sg. Trust me, when I first got the email, I was like wondering, is this spam? So we called a few friends. Hey, you get it too? You get it too? And then we verified, okay, this is the real thing. So this is indeed the real thing. If you want a copy of it, feel free to ping me and I'll be glad to just send it over to you to read up. But basically, it just tells you to appoint a DPO and why to appoint a DPO, and finally the link to appoint a DPO. You just go to bizfile.gov.sg and you can appoint a DPO over there. So DPOs are important. It is mandatory under the PDPA and even GDPR, the gold standard in data protection. And of course, why appoint a DPO? Because it provides accountability to stakeholders, which includes your staff and your customers. And finally, a DPO is always ready, should be ready to really respond to inquiries from the public and the regulators. So DPOs are important. They are also an executive position for the company and also going to be put on ACCRA. So you do not just appoint anybody to be DPO, okay? So in my course, the WSQ course, I always recommend that the DPO should be someone a bit more senior and responsible, because the DPO it's a tough job. The DPO can be a politician, a trainer, a HR manager, know a bit of IT. Not an easy job. So really, if you are a DPO, give yourself a pat on the back. If you know the DPO in your organization, please take care of them, sayang them, because they have a very tough job, especially the beginning of the compliance or accountability journey. So first, to appoint a DPO. So these are some of the responsibilities of a DPO. Certainly not an easy job to juggle several hats in the organization. So remember, give a high five to your DPO tomorrow morning. And if you do not know who your DPO is, please go and find out, because a DPO is a very important person. So second one, B. Be aware of personal data held by your organization. Why is this important? Now, question. If you do not know what data you have in your organization, then how do you protect it? I mean, you can't protect what you don't have, or rather, you might think you don't have, but it's there somehow. In that little corner, in that little cupboard, it contains all the treasure. So make sure you know your data in your organization, because in case of a breach, you cannot say, I don't know it was there. So not a good a reason or excuse. So why manage inventory? And we call it a data inventory, by the way. Just like if you are owning a retail shop, you certainly do inventory for all your products, because these products cost money. So let me give you something that will shake your mind up a bit. Data does cost money, or data is money. In fact, there's a recent article that talks about the new commodity in the 21st century. And what is it? Data. Data is worth money. Think about it this way. Hackers steal data and they sell it on dark web or the internet, and they pay good money for it, isn't it? And when some other hacker or scammer buys it, they use it to scam people. I mean, you have received some phone calls, SMS, WhatsApp, haven't you? Come on. All of us probably get some of these. No matter whether you're on DNC or others, you will get some of these. These people are trying their luck. So data is worth money. In fact, there was a recent case of the biggest online shopping platform was hacked. This is India, by the way. Big Basket, the biggest shopping platform, was hacked. And guess what? 20 million personal data was sold. Guess how much it was sold for? Anybody want to guess? Come on, throw a number. $1, $2, the amount, it was sold for 40,000 US dollars. Go and do your math. 20 million data sold for $4,000, 40,000 US dollars. That means the data is worth 0.002 cents. It's still money, think about it, right? And look at SingHealth, same thing. When SingHealth was breached, the data was sold online. And maybe somebody bought it, So data is important. Do your data inventory. So the data can basically make or break your business. It definitely affects your profit and losses. So data is the same thing. Data inventory for hard products, physical products, but also data in your inventory is worth money. So take care of it, because if someone gets their hands on it, they can make money from you. And why do you want to let them do that? And worse, if you are the owner of the data, you can be enforced under the regulations. Like in Singapore, it's PDPA. In UK and Europe, it will be GDPR. So be very mindful of the data that you have in your organization. So this is a very simple overview that I'm going to show you that gives you a good idea of what kind of data you have in your company. This picture is worth $1 million because this picture is usually shown to your data security people and not shown to a layman. So I'm going to explain to you this Venn diagram. So this whole entire universe shows the data in the company, and I'm going to show you that there are 4 major types of data in the company: financial data, personal data, business database, company secrets that include your recipes, your patterns. If you can lose any of the data, it may not affect the company. But the moment someone steals or mishandles personal data, the company can be enforced under the regulations. So you see how important personal data is. Yeah, some might argue and say that you know what, my company's secrets, my patents are worth a lot of money. They're talking about the blue part, the blue part there. Yeah, I agree. Patents, research, recipes are worth a lot of money. But even if they are stolen, the law doesn't care. Your company just loses some secrets to the next person. But come on, you know that there are so many people there who steal and plagiarize things. No big deal. But you see, the law, you don't go on newspaper or get sued by the government for losing your company data. In fact, there was a Singapore company, I believe it was Singapore Technologies. They had a data breach sometime in, was it May or June this year? But fortunately, it didn't contain personal data. But the moment personal data is being stolen, being affected, or being disclosed to the public or to a hacker, that's when the law comes down hard on the organization. So do you get it? Personal data being the most expensive and the importance, although there may not be any ROI yet. So take note of this. So these are the reasons why manage inventory. You can't protect what you don't know you have. Remember that. You cannot protect what you don't know you have. So make sure you know what inventory you have right now in your organization. The third one, create data protection policies and practices. So under the PDPA or other legislations, there are generally 2 types of privacy policies. One is external, the one for customers, and the one internal for your employees, volunteers, and shareholders or other stakeholders. So one way to check whether an organization is compliant with PDPA or accountable for personal data, go to the website, go and search whether they've got a privacy policy. Do you know that even now on Facebook, there is a tab for you to put a link to your privacy policy? So if you do not know, check your Facebook pages. For those of you who own pages, there is a little link. You can put a link to your privacy policy. So I recommend you look at this because that's one quick way to see whether a company or organization is accountable for a PDPA or any local or any data protection legislation. So a quick overview for you to know what are some common misconceptions regards to policies, process, and procedures. Yes, policies, process, and procedures. Many people can't understand what's the difference. But let me tell you, they are very different as far as a corporate is concerned. And I know that in several small, medium, and even micro SMEs, they don't differentiate policies, process, and procedures. However, in compliance or being accountable for data protection, it is essential that a company or the organization has proper policies. So you can look at this link for more about what a policy really is about, but you can pick me and I'll walk you through on how to create a very quick policy. So at least you are able to show that you are starting your journey towards compliance or accountability. So I don't promise you accountability or compliance immediately. It is a journey. It takes time. There is no silver bullet. There is no like throw money and solve the problem. No, there's no such thing. We have to go through this journey step by step. So do not rush to be compliant of sorts, all right? So these are some examples of policies that you could probably have in your company. I'm just giving you examples so you get an idea what a policy really is. Code of conduct is a policy. Health, safety, and environmental policy. Some companies even have a whistleblower policy, anti-harassment, quality, and yes, privacy policy. So be very, very mindful that all policies are there. I know if you are an SME, this is like, oh my gosh, this is paperwork. It's not going to be, there's no ROI in this. Well, as a small business myself, I know it's not common and it's not something that gives sales, but you know that we need to do this because we want to be accountable to our personal data and also comply the law. The last thing you want is touch wood. If anything bad happens, you get caught flat-footed. We don't want that. All right, so let's start by having your own privacy policy, please. All right, so other examples. D, defend personal data in your organization. So before you can defend, you must know every business there are risks, isn't it? So there are definitely also risks with regards to personal data. And what are we defending against? We are defending against the risk of being attacked, the risk of accidental disclosure of personal data. So we must understand first, the risk is defined as a probability of a threat resulting in a deviation from intended goal. Oh my gosh, that sounds like a mouthful. Yes, this is the official definition of risk. I also teach risk management. I teach ISO 31000 and help people to get certified in the area because risk management is extremely important for any company. And you know, my background, running a travel agency, running an adventure travel, we need to manage our risks. Losing a child, I mean, even a child being injured is too much, isn't it? So we have to do our risk assessments to prevent as much things from happening. Not saying that if something happens, it's bad, but we must really know how to handle the situation when something goes wrong. So an uncertainty to event will lead to a positive or negative outcome. Sometimes risk can be good. Let me share with you a very interesting study that I'm doing right now. You remember the Lazada? This is hypothetically, this is just my speculation, I declare. Remember there was a news on the, I believe it was 30th of October. Lazada announced that they had a data breach where millions of RedMart accounts have been hacked and disclosed. Interestingly, that was supposed to be bad news, right? But guess what? After 11/11, on the 12th of November 2020, Lazada reported record sales. Coincidence or deliberate? I don't know. But I must say, you and I will probably have noticed advertisements from Lazada and Shopee, ringing the malls, TV, and even radio 2 weeks before 11/11. But I think Lazada, they probably release the information about data breach quite timely just to get, well, our attention. I must admit, when I saw the news on 30th of October, I forwarded to a few friends, be careful, your shop 11/11. I didn't even read the article. I only read the headline. And then I read the article. OMG, the data breach happened in 2018. I felt stupid, I don't know about you, but I think they might have done something interesting here, turning something that's supposed to be bad into something really good and give them record sales. You don't hear Shopee talking about record sales this year, but Lazada was happily saying, 12th of November, we had record sales. Amazing, right? So I think, and lynch me if you are from Lazada, correct me if I'm wrong, it was probably a plan. I don't know, but I think it's something interesting to look out for. Look out for this video that I'm going to post next week on my YouTube channel on all the different, not all, but some of the articles that I captured that led on to the 12th of November article that Lazada had record sales. So catch that on YouTube next week. But anyway, risk is important. We have to manage our risk. And I must say, in data protection, before we can talk about defending our data, we have to look at risk assessments. And only by doing proper risk assessments, we can identify the hazards that lead to risk and nip them in the bud. So if you want to find out what kind of, there are only three, in fact, in data protection, there are only 3 ways to handle risk. There are only 3 ways to control risk. And they are I will not show them here, they are the technical, administrative, and physical way of protection. So I suggest you can go for some course on risk assessment to find out a lot more. I can't cover it in this short session here, but I hope you would find time to learn about risk assessment, because the new way of doing risk assessment is very different from what it was done before. The difference in the risk assessment today is more encompassing, many areas being considered, versus the traditional way of risk management where it's very siloed. HR risk, operational risk, compliance risk. Now in risk management, we look at it as a whole. So that's the difference in the revised ways of doing risk assessments and the traditional way. So find out more. You just go look out for risk assessments. So last but not least, education. Education of employees to implement data protection practices and even your policies. So this is by far probably the simplest, and I might want to say one of the most important items to do in taking your steps towards compliance and accountability to data protection. Why? Because I'll give you 10 seconds to appreciate this little cartoon. In this corner, we have firewalls, encryption, antivirus software, etc. And in this other corner, we have Dave. Quick, laugh. If you don't laugh, I'll tell you the answer tomorrow, okay? Now, majority of data protection breaches are a result of human error. You can have the best systems in the world, the best cybersecurity defenses, the best firewalls, but it just takes one careless human, or worse, malicious, evil person, whether internal or external, to cause that damage in your organization. Of course, you cannot control the malicious attackers, but what if it's internal? Remember the amendment in PDPA that there was a fine for people who mishandle data. I'm really quite glad that they actually have that, because if you have an evil staff in the company stealing data, then how? How many of you listening in are Malindo Air frequent flyers? Anybody in here? Malindo Air was subject to a data breach last year. In fact, I am a Malindo flyer, and I actually received an email from Malindo Air. And maybe I should share this email to you so that you can appreciate the fact that there are data breaches are real, and there is actually no way we can avoid them, and we can only minimize the impact of these data breaches, as we mentioned just now in risk assessments. So the story goes like this. Malindo Air was subject to a data breach last year because the staff was stealing data. I found it. The staff was stealing data, and they managed to find it. So let me just pull out. Let me show you this. Yes, there you go. Malindo Air. Let me just highlight to you the part where it says data breach. As a result of the findings, 2 former employees of our e-commerce services provider in their development center in India had improperly accessed and stole the personal data of our customers. The matter has been reported to the police both in Malaysia and India. So this is real. There are people who would steal data, and we have to be very careful, and that's why education is extremely important. Don't you think so? To educate our staff and employees to look out not just for their own personal data that they're handling, but also colleagues who behave suspiciously, I would say. All right, so cyber threats are really real. Do not underestimate them. Although there are many people who still surprisingly take it so slightly, and it's strange that Singaporeans still do not believe they are cyber crime target. This is sad. I hope that this circuit breaker has certainly taught people lessons, that there are real evil people out there impersonating police, impersonating public officers, and even impersonating the government. You know the most recent one, with the lady who picked up a call from Singtel, and this guy came in to the house, somehow got some 2FA or something from this lady, and she lost $40,000. Or was it $400,000? Just from a scam call. So it's real, ladies and gentlemen. Please be very careful. Please educate your elder folks at home, the young kids, because this is real. Do not underestimate hackers. Hackers don't rest. Trust me, even during COVID, I think hackers work even harder. And I have even recorded an entire phishing call, and I'll be glad to share it with you on how these fishermen, fish for data and scam you. So this was last year. Remind you, this was last year. 6 million lost to just phone scammers. That's not a lot of money, but it's still quite a lot lah. So please, scammers are real. Educate yourself, and even our minister, Heng Siket, mentioned about cyber hygiene. And yes, cyber hygiene is extremely important. I just got my cyber hygiene course approved for Skills Future funding. Yay! So I'll be glad to share it with you later as well. So these are some ways to educate yourself. Go for courses about the essentials of PDPA, or even the fundamentals of PDPA, where we actually have 2 days training. So I'm one of the trainers to train and educate people on the fundamental of PDPA. And I recently got a course that is a 1-day course for specially catered for learners above the age of 50. So it's okay if you're not above the age of 50, because membership got its privileges. Okay, I'm not 50 yet, okay, but those who are above 50 get special treatment, all right? So please find out from your friends on and contact on how to be educated. And I'm just going to wrap up before I take on questions on the 5 steps to start your data protection compliance. The first being apply your data protection officer. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what the QR code there is all about, the QR code is a code that you can scan. Eugene's face is there. Never mind, I hope it still works. It's a QR code you scan, and you'll be directed to a page that will ask you a few questions about your organization, and you can then score how compliant or accountable for personal data are you? So if you scan the QR code along the way as I do a summary, and you can be directed to a page and then check your own organization. Okay. So the first, appoint a data protection officer. That is the first step to any accountability. At least have one key person identified to handle all inquiries with regards to data protection, and make sure all the staff in your organization know who this person is, and this person should be, in my opinion, someone a little bit senior. And no problem if the person is not trained yet. Just start the journey and learn more, go for courses and be trained. There are several courses out there where you can take. So the second step to being compliant or accountable is to beware of the personal data held inside your organization, which means to do an inventory. Do an inventory of your data, not just of your goods, your physical goods, but do an inventory of your personal data, or even the other bits of data that I showed you earlier. Your financial data, your business data, your company secrets, which is your recipes, your patents. Do a data inventory and start to think how you want to keep them safe from hackers, or even your staff. I'm sure you don't let your staff see everything, right? This is also for business owner or key man. So do inventory. Then after you do an inventory, you can think about how to protect them. So the third thing to do is to create your data protection policies and practices. So there are certainly very important data that you have to create some policies and SOPs around it. So let's have work with your data protection officer or a consultant or advisor to help you with these policies and practices. Of course, you can find me lah. Okay, the fourth one, D, protect, which means defend your personal data. After you've done your data inventory, you have created your policies, then you find an expert to protect your data. And by and large, today, I believe many of us use this thing called a cell phone. We are very much on the internet. If you are on the internet already, make sure you have some basic cyber security defenses. Some people ask me, can I be 100% safe? The set answer is no. We can only take as much precaution as we can to defend ourselves. So remember, defend your data held in the organization. And of course, the last one, which is probably the simplest step to take, is to educate yourself, your employees, to implement data protection practices, starting from knowing and identifying the risk, identifying scams, knowing this is not right, reporting to a data protection officer, reporting to the bosses, hey, boss, something is not right. Can we look at this? So education starts from the business owner, key man, and even the auntie who cleans the room in the office is a very important person. A lot of people overlook that the auntie or the cleaners are just there, but you do realize that they have full access to the entire office, and they can probably be your best policeman. So appreciate them as well. So these are, in summary, five steps to be compliant: A, B, C, D, E. So if you want to take a picture of this and keep it handy, share with your bosses, share the key man, and most of all yourself, and take steps to go through A, B, C, D, E. All right, so I'll be glad. So these are the next steps you can do. So quickly go and deepen and learn what is A, B, C, D, E. Set a baseline for yourself, equip your staff, and get advice. Seek advice and take steps to be accountable for personal data. It is not a one-day thing. It is not a one-week thing. This journey will take some time. How long? I don't know. It really depends on how big your organization is. It depends on how much data you hold. And really, it depends on the culture and the nature of your business. So if these are the three key services that my team and I, we provide. We provide data protection advisory. we provide a retainer service where we support even SMEs to at least have the basic bare bone as to how to comply and at least handle questions and train staff on certain urgent and important areas. And of course, we continue to use training and development on data protection to help staff and educate staff to be prepared for issues and attacks by cyber hackers. So this is a course that you can look at, the fundamentals of PDPA. The next public course that I'm running is on the 28th and 29th of December, right after Christmas. So after the turkey and good food, perhaps you can spend 2 days to upgrade yourself or your staff by coming for a 2-day course on 28th and 29th of December on the fundamentals of PDPA. Otherwise, we also have a course on the 9th of December. So you can ping me for details. Otherwise, you can please do subscribe to my page on YouTube and Facebook. Find me. My name is Data Protection Pal. Mark Barnabas, I'm sorry. My name is Mark Barnabas, your Data Protection Pal. And my time is up, 8:45. Fantastic. So I would love to take on questions. If you have any questions regards to taking the first steps to comply or be accountable for your personal data. Eugene.
Right. Thank you, Mark. This is really very inspiring. And I must say that PDPA is often misunderstood from the simple fact that normally companies will appoint directors, their director as the DPO, and they practically don't do anything. It's just a DPO by name, right? So what you have given us are really practical steps that we could do to basically make sure that as a company, as as an individual, that we are able to kind of protect ourselves for and to be aware of what is going on, like cyber threats and the security aspect of the business, which again is another thing that is often overlooked, right?
Certainly.
So
in fact, many bosses think that there's a silver bullet. Remember, there is no silver bullet. You can't just pay someone to solve your compliance challenges. Unlike the ACCRA or IRA's compliance.
So as we guys are bantering, if you have any questions, please leave in a comment box below, and we will be able to pick up your question. Hannah, thanks for attending, really. So Hannah says thanks, Mark and Eugene. Thank you, Hannah. Right. And also I would like to say something. In the early days of PDPA, we used to consult the company lawyers of a particular shopping mall in Singapore. We shall not mention the shopping mall group. So it is quite interesting how the lawyers see PDPA. So the lawyers see PDPA as such. We are a shopping mall chain in Singapore, and we've got like 3 malls in Singapore, and all customer data that is previously being gathered. What the lawyers were saying is that they have to scrape the customer data and start from scratch, and that is what we actually challenge the lawyer, in a sense that to really tell them, is that really a need for that? So basically what
it's a very common question I get as well. People do ask whether they can use data from previous cases. Depends on how it was got, actually. And you're right, to throw away all data is kind of a waste, isn't it? I mean, we spend lots of money, right? I mean, you are doing SEO, and people spend good money to collect data from the internet, from social media, and all that, and it's kind of a waste to just throw it away. So, but although there are reasonable purposes in data collection and use, we can also repurpose data. that we have collected before. So repurposing data is just really about doing the right notifications and to repurpose the use of the old set of data. So it's really a waste if they just throw it away. So people who have lots of data, it's not true that you have to throw away everything. You're just gonna repurpose it. In fact, if you look at your emails nowadays, you will probably see Amazon, eBay, and many websites that you're joining for sending you notifications about how they are going to use your data from a particular date onwards, and they tell you that they have a new policy, and they hope you are reading it. But if you don't read it, it's okay. In the case that you're not happy, just unsubscribe. So there are many ways to do it. Of course, that's where I must say you have to ask lawyers for a bit of help how to word it properly, because we are not lawyers, Eugene's an SEO guy, SEO king rather, and I'm the PDPA pal. We give advice. We can't give the legal advice. So still, they have a good lawyer friend.
Yeah, so coming back to this more incident, it really become ridiculous that even the lawyer chose to take a very safe and guarded approach.
That's right.
Yes, I mean what we actually advise them is that what you can do is you can do a one-off consent exercise to tell people that we were going to tax you for marketing purpose. Do you agree or not? Yes, no. It's just a simple checkbox, right? And those that don't agree, then you will constantly find ways to engage them. Maybe next time they come and shop, and then you obtain their implicit consent, and you don't throw away. Right? Yeah, you don't throw away because these are all shopping data accumulated. Spending patterns. And these are all their people that are on their loyalty program. You see, then if they're going to throw away, that means they lose a lot of valuable business data as well. So there's a lot of misconception. Like, for example, let's take a wild case of, let's say, a tuition teacher, right? Tuition teacher tutoring a Sec 2 girl, let's say, for example. And this tuition teacher have a small shop selling maybe scarf or whatever, or like earrings or whatever. So so she started to text the girl and say, no, hey, you want to buy? I just set up a shop and all that. So technically, by right, this is like violating PDPA, but it also depends on how close she is with this girl, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got one final tip for business owners. I think the main pretext is this, that be close to your customers, like the case that Eugene just mentioned. Be close to your customers. Anything, talk to me. We can settle. Be friends with customers, and that's the most important. I think we all want to build relationship with our customers, isn't it? Not just a transactional thing and always wanting to look at customer and that's the dollar sign there.
Yeah, and one of the reason why I actually brought Mark into this Grow Digital with SEO King series is because for example, you use search engine optimization, you are able to get inquiries and all that. So a lot of people also mishandle inquiries. Like, for example, they also misunderstand that for example, if they opt into a newsletter, but I'm a multiple business owner, right? I'm selling, let's say I'm selling guys' clothes online, but I also have a restaurant. So there is a lot of misconception that people say that if they opt into my guys' fashion store email, that means that I can email them on my restaurant, which is actually not true, right, Mark?
Well, it really depends on how you craft your consent, really. So I'll leave that to lawyers to advise you or talk to us for more details. And I think Hannah has a question. Well, if you have a relationship with a customer, I hope it's not a over juicy relationship. But if you can prove there's a relevant, ongoing business relationship with a customer, then they are a business customer. And well, I'm not so sure the context of the question. If you can give me a more details, I would love to help you with this situation you have here. But generally, if you have got continuous engagement with a customer. The customer can't say that, oh, I know you concerned to call me. I mean, look, you're asking me about my business, isn't it? So I'm just being polite to reply to you and maybe even tell you what kind of services my company offers. So, well, it's really, really contextual. So earlier, I think Adrian asked about reasonable. You got to do the reasonableness test and ask yourself and a third person whether what you're doing is reasonable and ethical. Of course, we do know ethical rulers are different for different people, but generally, by and large, what is it accepted by the greater society? That's pretty much important in our consideration of data protection.
That's right. And just for your info, Hannah is in the CRM business, customer relationship management business.
That's very
she's my
important.
personal friend. Yeah. And I think what she means is having a CRM is where you really manage the relationship flow from a prospect to being a customer to what they are buying and things like that. So yes, it is very important to keep all this data to segregate the data so that you can use it for marketing purpose, and you also need to comply to this 5 steps of PDPA, right? And really it's all about that, really, right? And that is why Mark is here, right? To have a conversation, and really is about, if you guys really get value from this, kindly subscribe to our respective channels at Data Protection Pal on YouTube and also imseoking.com, because this will really encourage us to do more content for the community at large, right? And let's see. So Hannah says, if I build a relationship with a customer or partner and if I move on to another company, am I able to reinstate that relationship?
Well, this is a very, very interesting question. Do you want the lawyer answer or do you want the practical answer? Well, let me give you the legal answer first, the very legal answer. If you are my employee and you are going to leave the company, I would probably have a statement in my employment contract that says that all of your contacts are belonging to the company. And that's also the reason why hotels typically give the sales managers a company phone. And when the sales manager leaves the company phone is retained by the hotel. And if the sales manager wants to have a continued relationship as a friend to the customer, then the sales manager will typically tell the customer, hey, customer, I'm going to leave the hotel in a month's time. This is my personal number. Next time, have coffee, okay? This is not uncommon in the industry. I mean, being in the hospitality industry for more than 10 years, it has happened over the years. And I do follow some of the sales managers all over. In fact, I do have a friend from A insurance agency. He moved on to B insurance agency, and I follow him because he knows my kind of business. He knows that my product is a mountain climbing product and all that. So he would help me underwrite certain things. So, but my account, my contact still belongs to company A. It's just that I've chosen not to use company A, but company A will still continue to engage me and say, hey, do you want to continue this relationship? And it's really my choice. And the company A has all the right to contact me. And I as a customer, have all the right to choose company B. So I hope I've given the legal answer and also the practical answer as well. So there is really a lot of wisdom required in this trade and in this business. So I can't always tell you what is right, what is wrong. I only end up with this statement: be very wise, use a lot of common sense, and always use the reasonableness test and touch your heart and ask yourself if you're doing something ethically right.
Yes, and on this note, I would like to touch on something like, for example, if we even like what you say, insurance agent and property agent, right? So if let's say, for example, you know a property agent, and you know this person has really done well. You bought your first house, and then you're up for upgrading. You call the person. Does it really matter to you that the person has moved on to another company? It doesn't, because the person still provide a service, a good service, that you like it as a person. So again, like what Mark say, what Mark has given you is the very politically correct answer, as what Hannah said. But it doesn't mean that, you know, in terms of relationship. And recently, I have noticed a lot. In business, is about building relationship capital, right? And a lot of people don't do that. Relationship capital is just having a coffee, right, with somebody that you, even in your mind, you think that you have no business dealing with, but you never know how things spin off from there, right? You never know how, you know, having a Zoom meeting and say, no, hey, come, let's see how we can huddle together and do something. So that's one reason why I formed the Internet Marketing Secrets Telegram group. Today we are about almost close to 700 strong, and we try to do regular trainings like that to keep each other engaged. Because if not, then we will feel very down in terms of this pandemic, right? So since we don't have any other questions, we both of us would like to thank you from the bottom of our heart. Remember, like, share, and comment our respective
Yes,
YouTube
please.
channel, because yes, because we are really trying to grow content, and sometimes it is a bit discouraging when you see that you only have 10 views after, like, for example, Mark or me, you know, we spend 1 hour recording a video, and after that we have only 10 views. So as a start, we would strongly encourage you to share this video, because there's so many misconceptions in PDPA. And you know, Mark has really shared something that we could really take actionable steps to implement PDPA for our small organization. Even if you are a freelancer, you might think that you don't need it. You might not need it, but it doesn't cost much to actually know what PDPA is, so that at least you don't trip over,
Oh yes,
especially when you're handling data, right?
that's very important. All right, let's call this to a close. And
All right.
again, once again, thank you everybody. And my name is Mark Barnabas, your PDPA pal, and this is Mr. Eugene Han, our SEO king. And let's do a high five. Which side? This side. This
Yeah, high
side.
five.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which wrong
Right.
side lah?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So see you guys, everybody. Take care
Okay.
and be safe and be good. All right. See you then.
Yeah, cheers,
Yes,
man.
thank you,
Until
Eugene.
the next video, right? Remember to subscribe again. Data Protection Pal, and I am SEO King. So I am SEO King, Eugene, signing off. Mark Barnabas, signing off. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.